The world's a pretty wild place right now, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And it feels like every day there's something new and, let's face it, a little unnerving happening with technology. So today, we're going deep on something that's both fascinating and, yeah, maybe a bit scary: artificial intelligence.
A bit scary is right.
Especially how AI is changing the game for activists and the causes they're fighting for. Luckily, we've got an expert with us to break it all down, ready to explore the future of activism.
Let's do it.
Okay, so the source material we're digging into today paints a picture of a world grappling with killer robots and deepfakes.
Yeah, those are two terms you don't want to see in your newsfeed every day.
For real, it sounds straight out of a sci-fi movie. But how close to reality are we talking here?
Well, closer than you might think. Let's start with killer robots, or, to use the official term, lethal autonomous weapon systems, Law Ws.
Well, sketchy.
Right. Not quite the humanoid robots we see in movies, though. These are advanced weapon systems that can identify and engage targets, all with minimal human intervention.
Okay, so less Terminator, more like drones on steroids. What are some real-world examples of these Law Ws?
Good example, and one from our source material, is Israel's Harpy drone. Imagine you're a radar operator, battlefield, suddenly everything goes haywire. You've been targeted by a Harpy, which basically hangs out, waiting to attack anything that's emitting a radar signal, and no humans controlling its every move.
Whoa, that's both impressive and a bit terrifying at the same time.
Right.
Our source mentions this impacting something called the OD loop.
Yes. The OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. It's basically a decision-making model, super important in warfare. Laws, they essentially speed up this whole cycle, reacting potentially faster than a human could, which then raises some big questions.
Like, where does human judgment even fit in when a machine's making these life or death calls?
Exactly. It's that classic debate. How much distance should there be between making that decision to use force and actually using it?
Right, right.
Some experts, they argue that taking human emotion out of the equation, it could actually save lives, leading to more precise actions, fewer mistakes. Others, and our source talks about this guy, Dean Baker, who wrote, "Should we ban killer robots?" Their argument is that there's a moral obligation for humans to be the ones controlling that lethal force, no matter what the potential benefits might seem.
I see what you mean. That's a tough one. Kind of reminds me of the whole self-driving car debate, weighing potential lives saved, but also the risk of a machine making a mistake.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And what's so interesting here is how the public sees it all. Like landmines, they're autonomous in a way, right? They don't discriminate between a soldier or a civilian.
Yeah.
And there's been a huge push to ban them internationally. So will people feel the same about laws? That's the million-dollar question.
And it's not just about warfare, is it? I mean, this stuff could easily spill over into civilian life.
Oh, absolutely.
Imagine robot police instead of human officers facing off with protesters.
There you go. That's the what if that keeps people up at night.
Right. You've got a protest, AI-powered robots are monitoring the crowd, maybe they're even armed. Then what? What happens if a robot misinterprets something, sees a threat that isn't really there?
Could be a recipe for disaster.
Exactly, like a potential Sharpeville massacre situation.
Right, exactly.
Sharpeville, that was that awful event in South Africa. Police opened fire on peaceful protesters. Even then, they tried to cover it up, but journalists were there, they documented it.
Right, right.
Would we even have that same level of accountability with robot police? Would people trust footage from a robot as much as, say, a video a bystander took?
That's the core issue, isn't it? Where
Oh.
people question it, say it was manipulated. And this is actually where laws start to overlap with another type of AI that's everywhere these days, deepfakes.
Which, speaking of things that make you question reality. Yeah.
Maybe we should move on to those now. Deepfakes. Where do we even start with this stuff? It's like,
Yeah.
remember back in the day when a blurry photo, that was like the biggest scandal. Now we've got AI that can basically create reality.
Right. It's mind-blowing how far things have come. We've gone from, like you said, blurry photos to we're talking about AI that can generate entire videos, fake videos that look incredibly real. And the scary part is it's getting easier and easier to do.
I gotta admit, I've fallen for a few of those silly face swap videos going around online. Those still crack me up. But you're saying those are nothing compared to, like, real deal deepfakes.
Think of it this way. You know that video, it was everywhere, The Rock singing to Hillary Clinton?
Oh, yeah, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
Totally. So that's a shallow fake. It's clever editing, basically. Funny, sure, but pretty easy to figure out that it's fake. Deepfakes, though, different story. They use AI, analyze tons of footage of a person, like their facial expressions, how they talk, their voice, everything. then use all that data to basically create brand new footage that looks and sounds just like them.
Okay, so you're freaking me out a little bit. You're telling me there's AI out there that could take footage of me and make me say or do anything.
Pretty much. Remember that fake Obama video from a while back?
Yeah, the one where it sounded like he was, like, dissing other politicians.
That's the one.
Yeah.
It sent chills down my spine, to be honest. And the thing is, that technology, it's becoming so accessible. Pretty soon, anyone with a half-decent computer and an internet connection could whip something like that up.
And that's what's terrifying, especially for activists, right? I mean, imagine what it means for a movement if suddenly there's a video of their leader saying something inflammatory or even like engaging in violence, and it looks totally real even if it's not.
Exactly. The potential for this to be weaponized against activists, it's huge. Think about it. Someone creates a deep fake of a prominent activist saying something hateful, maybe even doing something illegal.
It would be chaos.
Total chaos. And even if it's debunked later, the damage is done. That seed of doubt, it's planted.
And it's not just movements that could be attacked this way, individuals too, right?
Absolutely. Imagine someone using a deepfake to humiliate an activist, try to silence them. Or even worse, create fake evidence that could be used against them in court. We're talking about real threats to people's lives or livelihoods.
This is seriously heavy stuff.
It is. And honestly, it all points to a much bigger problem, this erosion of trust. I mean, if we can't even trust what we see with our own eyes anymore, then...
And how do we know it's real?
Exactly. It makes you wonder, like, think about George Floyd's murder.
That horrific video, yeah.
The video is crucial, right? Ignited outrage, fueled a movement. But in a world saturated with deepfakes, would people be so quick to believe it? Would that seed of doubt be even stronger?
That's what's so scary. It makes you question everything. So where do we even go from here? Like, if we're talking about activism in this kind of world, a world where seeing is no longer believing, what are activists supposed to do? It's a lot, right? We've gone from killer robots to deepfakes. It's overwhelming. But you said earlier that activism is all about adapting. So how do activists even begin to navigate this landscape where tech can be both like a weapon and a tool at the same time?
It's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the answer. I think it's a mix of awareness, taking action, and honestly, a good dose of optimism.
Okay, I like that. So break that down for me. What does awareness even look like in this context?
Well, it starts with education. We have to understand how these technologies work, their capabilities, where they fall short. The more we know about AI, the better equipped we are to, say, spot a deepfake, understand the biases baked into algorithms, and even advocate for ethical development.
So it's not even just about being tech savvy anymore. It's AI savvy. But awareness on its own isn't enough, is it? What kind of actions can people actually take?
And that's where things get really interesting. Think about how activists have always used technology, right? From printing presses to social media, they've always adapted. We can do the same with AI. Imagine using AI to monitor human rights abuses, to track, say, environmental damage, or even predict disinformation campaigns before they blow up.
So instead of just playing defense, activists can use these tools offensively.
Exactly. And even beyond actually using AI, there's a lot we can do to shape the field itself. Supporting organizations that are fighting for ethical AI, demanding transparency from governments and these big corporations that are using this tech. Public pressure is powerful. We can't forget that.
It's like that saying, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Activists need to be part of that AI conversation from the get-go.
100%. And I truly believe that by being informed and proactive, we can actually steer AI in a direction that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Now, that is a hopeful thought to end on. So for our listeners out there, the folks who just went on this wild ride with us, what's the one thing you want them to take away from all of this?
That the future of activism in this age of AI, it's still being written. It's up to all of us to decide what that future looks like. Stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into AI and activism. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.